Getting your podcast started or growing your show isn't hard if you have the right partner, like Tandem. Tandem is a new community-based podcast hosting platform that makes it easier for podcast creators to focus on what we like to do the most, create. They'll connect you with other podcast creators through their one-of-a-kind community hub built right into the platform, letting you collaborate with other shows, learn from one another, and link your audiences together. Tandem also comes packed with tools to help you post your show on all top podcast platforms, provide you with analytics, even historical ones if you're switching, educational tools, and they're backed by a podcast studio to help you professionally record and edit your show no matter where you're recording from. So just create and let Tandem help you do the rest. To get started with free and low-cost plans, visit them at tandempodcasting.com today. That's tandempodcasting.com. Welcome back to Bit Different Pod. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Today is all about handling workplace conflict, and this doesn't have to be just from an owner's perspective. It could be a manager, it could be someone at any level really. Inside a workplace, there will always be conflict that arises. How frequently, hopefully, is designated by the higher ups. And hopefully, there's good communication skills. There's a lot of teaching involved into making sure that it's a healthy workplace environment. But even the best places, you'll have conflict arise. So today's episode is going to be all about this, my experiences with it, what I've learned, and hopefully what I can give you as tools so you can take them with you as well. At the end of the day, if it's conflict with your staff, with your equals, with your partners, if it's conflict between other staff, other partners, like whatever the situation is that you are coming into, you have to enter into it with this knowledge. Both parties are upset and both parties are valid. Despite someone quietly working and someone throwing a chair at them, like there will probably be no situation where one party is completely innocent and the other party is completely at fault. There is going to be room on both sides to grow, to learn, to be better, to do whatever it is that needs to be done to make sure things like this don't happen again. If anybody comes into it, if you come into it angry, hot-headed, nothing good is going to come out of it. It just won't. You both can blow off steam maybe, but it doesn't solve the issue that started it in the first place. So having a cool, calm, collected disposition and the ability to see where you and your team can communicate better, all of that is just going to aid you in making sure you have a successful conflict resolution. And this is the number one reason. It always comes back to this. Let's just say it is the only reason conflict arises. And that's because of either poor or no communication. Miscommunication and misunderstanding, not communicating properly, not communicating fully, or just not communicating at all leads to these types of issues. I am a huge proponent of talking. That sounds silly. No, I mean it though. Like, you need to be able as a boss and as an owner to be able to make sure that people feel heard. They know that they're being communicated to, like, and with. They need to know that they're being communicated with, not to. Meaning you don't talk at people, you talk with them, right? So if you have that, you'll be able to start from a place of success. If you're just both angry, you don't care about that other person, you don't care what their issues are, you're just pissed and you want to be right, it's not going to work itself out. Sorry, it won't. Maybe you'll feel a little bit better because you got something off your chest, but I guarantee you come back to it, you're going to wish you handled it differently. And honestly, this leads us to just the most important part of this episode. So for workplace conflict, the most important thing is, how do you move forward? I can't give you a play-by-play of what that conflict is going to be, but you are going to come up against it. When you have conflict, the first thing to recognize is that both parties are valid and they both just want to be heard. The other part of this is, how do you move forward to make sure this doesn't happen again? I gotta tell you, I do not like sorries and then just walk away. That doesn't do anything, because the issue that led to this is still hanging out there. It still can be repeated again. So you need to establish where the changes can be put in this very specific situation. And then maybe it'll also lead to a bigger conversation of, maybe there's just like a policy that needs to be put in place that wasn't there before. And boom, that's an easy fix. And then you don't have to think about this again. It doesn't become a regular conflict that arises in your business. Maybe it is much more intense and it needs to go through several processes. That's okay. You want to treat this conflict as a moment to fix a hole that, if anybody else had found, maybe it would have been a lot worse, right? In your business, there are going to be holes. You're going to have blind spots. You're not going to be able to be everywhere at once. You're not going to be able to see everything. So take this as a moment that someone just brought a blind spot to you and said, look, this is something that happens. Great, let's fix it. Let's put those plans in place to make sure this specific thing doesn't happen again, and things like this. Your team will be stronger. Your business will be stronger. You'll have more confidence in your team that you can take a step back, that you could be away for a day, and it's not all going to fall apart on you. So if the ultimate goal here is, how do we move forward from this after we take the time to hear both sides, we allow people to feel heard, we say, okay, how do we make sure we move on from this so it isn't happening again? My most favorite thing is action. I'm all about talking, sure, meetings, love it. Yes, brainstorming sessions, let's get it. However, it all does nothing for me if I'm not like, okay, Brianna, you're in charge of this and this and this, and this is when it needs to be done by. Matt, you're in charge of this and this and this, and this is when you need to have this by. I love that part of it. That is my favorite, because it's assigning ownership and making sure that you're actually working on things that have come up and not just talking. People can talk. Oh, I know people who can talk. They have the greatest ideas. They do the most. Oh, they've done so many things. Oh, they have all the greatest ideas in the world. But where is the proof? Where is the stuff? And you get that from doing the work. In terms of the workplace conflict and how to put this into perspective, if people know what they're supposed to do from here on out to avoid this issue again, you can then pinpoint exactly where it comes from if it happens again in the future. Because if you put those plans in place, okay, I'm going to make up random people from a business. Let's use my cat's names. Let's say George and Kramer. These are two workplace associates, and George is in charge of sales and Kramer is in charge of marketing. They're intrinsically linked. And there was an issue there where a client didn't get passed off correctly. And so then that client got upset and actually left. We lost the money. That's a big issue. So you put those plans in place to say, okay, so when the client comes in, it's time to do that transfer. George, you're going to set this email up. You're going to have Kramer CC'd into it and do that pass off email. And then Kramer, once you get that email, it is your responsibility to then tap in and take over, and you take it from there. So then if something like this happens in the future and you say, well, where was that email that introduced them to the client? It's a very specific thing that you can go back to and look at and say, George, you didn't actually send that email. You talked about it to Kramer in person, and that's nice and all, but you didn't send the email, and that was the procedure. This is how workplace conflict is going to then get resolved, and then how you're going to be able to have accountability afterwards. Which, honestly, there's so many themes to owning a business. Like, you've heard me talk about accountability and leadership checks and, trusting your gut instinct and listening and being able to respect your staff. All of it is linked. You're going to need all these different parts. So if you're not immediately involved in the conflict, but you're the owner, you need to oversee this conflict, take these lessons. Okay? Do exactly what was just said. If you are involved in the conflict, whether it is you talking to someone who has done something wrong or someone is talking to you about something you did wrong, be open, be calm, be cool, because nothing will get done if you're just mad. I've had to fix issues in the past, and I waited before I went because I would be upset and I was like, I'm going to go yell. And then I was like, what does that do? Sure. I might get them to be like, okay, I'm sorry. And I'll do it. But then if I just leave after that, because I'm still so angry, there was no resolution. There was no coming back to how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Because if it happens again, can you really be upset about it? You never put the plans in place to make sure it didn't happen again. So this is my plea for workplace conflict, whether you're involved or you're handling it as an authority in the business. Be collected, be calm, and be understanding that honestly, humans just want to feel valued. They want to feel heard, and they want to feel that they matter. I actually had a call with my therapist and we talked over different ways to handle workplace conflict. And I want to tell you something that has really worked, and it can work actually in your personal relationships as well. This is a bit of advice that just works all around. If you apply it, this will work for you. That advice is this. When someone is talking, one, allow them to fully talk. Don't interrupt them. Save all your things you want to say till later. So one, you're allowing them to describe it, what it is, the situation, and how they feel about it. Two, the thing to do is to repeat what you heard of that. Okay? Because what that is going to do is allow them a moment to make sure that one, you were listening, and that two, you understand them. You say, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that when I didn't pass this client on to you and communicate fully, it made you feel frustrated because you had told me this was the specific way to do this before. So you felt like, one, I didn't respect your time and that I didn't listen to you. Boom, done. If someone said that to me and that was the specific situation, I'd be like, yes, you heard me. And that immediately is just going to bring the whole conversation down from a really high place of anger and stress and anxiety and just be like, okay, this person is going to work with me on this. As long as two people are going into this with level heads, you can be upset, you can have passion, you can want to make things better, but you don't have to be screaming. That doesn't always lead to success. Hopefully that can work for you. I know I've applied it here. I really try to listen, whether it's clients who are screaming about something or, a partner who I don't agree with on a certain thing or an employee who messed up on something. At the end of the day, if I'm listening and I'm saying, okay, this is what I hear you are saying and repeating that back to them, that allows them to know that they're being heard and that is valuable. So workplace conflict, yes, it can be a tricky one, but I think as long as you're taking these lessons, you will find success. And again, I'm more than happy to discuss more, or if you have any questions, you can send them to the email, which is bitdifferentpod@gmail.com. I do want to put together like an episode of just questions. So if you guys really could send me questions, we'll go over them more. That could even be a reoccurring series. So just send me what you got. I'm more than happy to talk on anything. I'm pretty much an open book on what I can be. And I really don't mind going there. So feel free to ask away. And you can follow the podcast on Instagram @bitdifferentpod. You can follow me personally on Instagram. That is @BriannaPeters_. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode. I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.